Now let's go ahead and see that how we can install Skip on your machine. Simply go to skip.tools, go ahead and click on Getting Started. And there are a couple of things that we need to look at. First of all, check out the system requirements. Skip required macOS 13 development with Xcode 15 at least, Android Studio, and Homebrew. All of those things are very important, all right? So I'm currently using Xcode 16, so 15 or above should be okay. Android Studio, well, you can download Android Studio from their website. There we go, developer.android.com, and you can simply download Android Studio Ladybug or whatever the release version is. Just download that. All right. Homebrew is a package manager, the missing package manager for macOS. Make sure you download that also and install that. Now, in order to install Homebrew, all you need to do is to copy this particular command or this particular line right there, all of it, and run it on your terminal, anywhere on your terminal. So I can just copy it, go to the terminal, and then just paste it, and then run it. That's it. All right. Now, I already ran these things, so I'm not going to run it again, but that's what you have to do. So make sure that you have Homebrew installed. Okay, so hopefully at this point you have everything installed. Next thing is, now that you have Homebrew installed, you can run brew install skip tool skip/skip. So just copy this line. Now, after installing Homebrew. Okay, now I have already installed that. So let's see what happens if I run this again. So I'm going to go over here and run this again. I already have Homebrew installed. So probably it's going to either update it or it's going to install it again or whatever. But it's trying to use Homebrew to install skip tools. And Homebrew is extremely popular for any kind of installation that you're doing on your macOS for packages. And it's used a lot in the Ruby on Rails community also. They have to download different packages, install different packages. So they also use it a lot over there. Okay. So over here, I'm looking at, okay, Homebrew is looking at all the stuff. You have 14 outdated formula and 1 outdated cask installed. And looks like that skip was successfully upgraded. Okay, so that's a good thing to hear. All right. All right, so now I can run this command. Now, when you're running this command, which is skip checkup, and you don't have Xcode installed or you don't have Android Studio installed, then it is going to give you a list of things that you need to install. So let's actually run it. I'm going to clear this out and just run this command. All right. See that? It's going through a checklist and it's saying, okay, you got skip version 1.2.20, got it. macOS version 14.5, got it. Okay. Swift version 6, Xcode version 16. As I mentioned earlier, I'm using Xcode 16. You got Xcode tools, you got Homebrew, Gradle. So you'll get Gradle when you're installing Android Studio. So a lot of these things are just from Android Studio itself. All right. So let's make it, just leave it alone. It's going to try to build the Hello Skip app and all that stuff just to see that if everything is working correctly or not. So it's going to do the checkup. All right. And if any of these things, check marks, you don't see them, and you see like a cross sign, that means you need to take care of those things. All right, very important. Now, there is a possibility that when you run skip checkup, and although you have installed Android Studio, but you don't really have any emulator. So there's a possibility that it may tell you that, hey, you got to install the Android emulator. Where am I going to run Android applications, right? So I'm going to show you how, if you get that cross, how you can install Android emulator. And not a big deal. You don't really need to open Android Studio completely in order to do anything with Skip. All you need to do is to make sure that your Android emulator, whichever one you select, I think I'm selecting like Pixel, but you can select any one you want. And you have to make sure that your Android emulator is running. Because if it's not running, then you won't be able to, compile, build, run, skip applications. But that's not really a big deal. All right. So let's wait for this to complete. And once this is completed, we can come back. All right. So here it is. Everything is successfully done. All right. So you need to see all of these check marks. All right. That's the important part. All of these check marks. If you see one of them is not, check mark, then you have to fix those things. So everything is fine at this point. The next thing that we want to do is, well, how do we actually create an app? And on skip.tools, they do have a section on creating the app. What I usually do is I copy this particular line right there, and I just edit a couple of different things. All right, so here it is. Everything is successfully done. All right. So you need to see all of these check marks. All right. That's the important part. All of these check marks. If you see one of them is not, check mark, then you have to fix those things. So everything is fine at this point. The next thing that we want to do is, well, how do we actually create an app? And on skip.tools, they do have a section on creating the app. What I usually do is I copy this particular line right there, and I just edit a couple of different things. And one of the things this is actually going to do is also, after creating a Skip project for you, it is going to also open Xcode, which is great. Okay, so let's copy this line, the whole line, go back, and you can only run this line if you have all the check marks. So make sure that you are getting all the check marks. All right, that's the important part. I'm going to go ahead and paste it. And over here, we need to change a couple of different things. Let me actually make this a little bit more. There we go. Now you should be able to see a little bit more nicer, right? Okay, so app ID, company name, Azam Sharp, and this will be your app ID. So you should use something else, like say hello world skip. Okay, and what will be the name of the folder that you're, so I'm just going to say hello world. I mean, it can be anything, I guess, but I can say hello world skip. And over here also, I'm going to keep the project name hello world skip. Okay, let's go ahead and run this. Now, when you run this, you have to also, so here we go. I'm going to copy all of this line and paste it right there. Now I'm currently on desktop, but obviously you can be anywhere you want. And now I can go and edit a couple of these different things. The app ID. So I'm going to use the convention com.companyname. Whatever the name of my app ID is, whatever the name of my app is. So I already use hello skip, so I'm just going to replace it with hello world skip. Same thing with the folder name over here. I'm just going to say hello world skip, and over here the project name hello world skip. Okay, so you can also go ahead and read this. So this will create a hello skip folder. So this is the hello skip folder with a new SPM package containing a single module named hello skip, which is this. All right, so that will contain our hello skip.xcode project with the Xcode project target. So now I can go over here and see, the line that I wrote, com.adamsharp.hello world skip, and we can actually, there we go. It's kind of hard to read, but now it should be okay to read. This will be the folder, this will be the target that it's creating. And since I'm running it on desktop, that particular folder will be created on desktop. As you should be able to see right there, it has created the folder. And the good thing is that not only is going to, create the whole thing, like the whole template or the whole project, but it's eventually, when it's done, it's going to launch Xcode. All right. So right now, Xcode is not even running. So once it is done, it is going to launch Xcode. Okay. And once the Xcode is launched, from there, we can go ahead and try to build the application and try to run the application. So here we go. Everything looks good. All the check marks are green. And it's actually telling you in the second last check mark that opening Xcode project. So you can see it's trying to open Xcode project. Now, since it's opening for the first time and my Xcode was not really running, so it can take a little bit of time for Xcode to open, as you can see. There we go. I'm going to change the destination. That's the first thing I do, to whatever, iPhone 16 Pro Max, and let it build. So you can see that it's still finishing up the build. It's indexing it and all that stuff. Okay, so let's check out what code we already have over here. Our project name is Hello World Skip. And in that particular target, we can go to sources, and this is where you can find your content view. Okay, so this is your content view, and this is a SwiftUI view. Now, as you can see that we are not using Xcode previews. You can use Xcode previews if you want to, but the only thing with Xcode previews when using with Skip, what I have experienced is, since Xcode previews will refresh anytime you make a change, that also causes a refresh on Android. So it can be a little bit slow, but it's not like you cannot use it. You can still use it, but it's going to cause a refresh also on Android. Okay. I'm sure there are maybe some ways to turn it off, but that's okay. If you want to use previews, that's perfectly fine. Nothing wrong about that. Now, all of this code that you see, it comes with default. And we can remove most of this code if we want to. But what I usually try to do when I create a project is just to try to build it. So let's go to just build it. So I'm building the project. Now, since we are building for the first time, there is a possibility it can take a little bit of time. But once it is built one time, the future will be, in the future, it will be a little bit faster. Okay, so we are still building. And keep in mind, whenever we're building, it's not only building for iOS, but it is also building for Android. All right, that's the beauty of using Skip. And all the code that you see, if you have ever done any Swift UI and Swift development, you already know all of this code. And there's nothing that is like, oh, wait, I didn't understand that. Well, all of this code you have already seen before, right? All right, so we're just waiting for the build to be done. Okay, so build was failed. And I wanted to show you that because you may encounter the same things, so that I'm going through the same steps. You can see that there are some errors over here in our error window, error pane. And basically it is saying no connected Android devices or emulators were reported. Okay. So as I mentioned earlier on, is whenever you are using or building using these skip tools, you have to make sure that your Android emulator is also open. Now, it's not a big deal. We can just open it by ourselves. I can go ahead and open Android Studio because I already have installed Android Studio. So let's go ahead and open Android Studio. Now, you can see that the first screen over here is Welcome to Android Studio. And we don't really want to open the project or anything unless you want to, be in a Android Studio and trying to edit Kotlin and all that. But right now, we're only focused on how can we run our emulator. So if you go to More Actions, there will be a section called Virtual Device Manager. And over here, you can see that I've already added Pixel 3, but you can go ahead and press on the plus key and add any device that you want. You can see that there is Pixel 4, Pixel 6, and so on. I'm just randomly picking like Pixel 3, but you can add any emulator that you want. And I'm just going to go ahead and press the play button over here to make sure that Pixel 3 emulator is running. And now you can see it's basically saying that, okay, I'm going to be launching emulator. So it's trying to launch the emulator. Okay, so there we go. So that's our Android emulator is running. And when you're developing, you always have to make sure that it is running. Now, this is a different screen, so don't worry about that. That's not our app, but there we go. That's our emulator running. Okay. Once the emulator is running, and that's pretty much it, let's go ahead and build it again. We're going to do the same thing. We're just going to build it and try to see if it is building successfully or not. We're taking small steps, right? Small steps. Okay, good. Build succeeded. That is awesome. Once it succeeded, how about we just run the app? We haven't really made any changes. Let's just go ahead and run the app. Now, on the emulator, since it was already running, you can see that it's launching and it's going to show you what the app actually looks like, keeping in mind that the app that we're looking at is implemented in Swift and Swift UI. And this is how it looks on Android, which is pretty cool. See that on Android? And now it's trying to launch the same exact app with the same exact code on iOS. Okay. So we're going to wait for the simulator. Of course, this is the first time we're running the iPhone simulator. So that's why it's taking a little bit of time. And my machine is also Intel iMac, so it's a little bit slower than all of you people who are using Silicon. And so it will be a little bit slower on my side. But once it is running, we will just make sure that our simulators are running and our Android emulators are running so that we can get the speed also. Okay, there we go. Same exact code, and we are able to see how it actually looks like. Look at that. You can go to home. You can see all the list of dates. I mean, these are just some dummy items and boiler code that was added by the Skip project. If I go to home, there we go. I can see that also. And one of the things that you will notice, which is actually really good, is how it is rendering native elements on iOS and native elements for Android. All right. On iOS, if I have a list over here, look at the list. It's bouncy, right? Because if you're using an iPhone, you kind of expect that behavior in your apps. That's how they behave. They bounce. But if you are on Android device, it doesn't bounce. See that? Because if you're using an Android device, that's the behavior that's the native behavior that the list will not bounce. And the same exact thing is for every single thing. Like if I go over here and you can see it says Sunday and you can just add some title and favorite on and off. All of these controls are native. So the look and feel your customer or your audience will be very comfortable because it's not like, oh, wait, I have never seen this kind of component before or a UI element before. Well, it's all Android, right? I mean, look at that. This is the calendar on Android, and this is a calendar on iOS. They're very different, but they provide you with the same functionality. So I think that's great. And I can go ahead and click on the timer. Look at the timer on Android, where you can actually set the time. And look at the timer all over there. All right. So this is, I think, really cool that you're able to do that. You're able to write code in Swift UI, and then it transpiles to the Kotlin and then bytecode, but it uses the native elements because you want that warm feeling in your customers when they use your app. You don't want them to be, oh, hold on a second, why is the calendar looking weird? Why is all of these things looking weird? All right, let's go to settings just to look at what settings are. Okay, there we go. This is how it looks like over here, and this is how it looks like over there. So this is awesome because we are writing in our favorite programming language, Swift, with using our favorite UI declarative frameworks of UI, and we're able to target not only iOS, but same code is targeting Android. So I hope that you are super excited about this, and make sure that you successfully install and successfully run this basic application, because that will be our starting point. And in the future, we'll be creating much larger applications. Thank you. If you want to learn more about how you can use Skip tools to create your iOS and Android applications, then check out my brand new course, Skip Fundamentals. Now, this course is going to cover a lot of details for creating your iOS application. You can check out the course video. We're going to be looking at client-server application, map application, and also on-device persistence. And I will be planning to add more content as I record more videos. And this course is currently available for $149, but you can use the coupon code LAUNCHDAY to get 40% off. But make sure you realize that this particular code expires on January 24th, and also this code is only available to a limited amount of customers, meaning this is limited number of coupons that are available. So if you don't use it, somebody else uses, then you will run out of these coupons. So make sure that you use this coupon and you can get 40% off, which is a launch day coupon. All right, so check out some of the free videos that are also available, like what is Skip, installing and running your application, and all of this content will be available to you. All right, so thank you so much. Hope you enjoy this brand new course. Thank you.